here in studio is a creative, wild soul on a mission to embody her deepest essence and expression to help empower others to do the same. She's a spiritual mentor, artist, yogi, teacher, adventurer, and old soul. Please welcome the creator of Shameless Sexuality series and her upcoming soul seduction course, Chelsea Rose. What's up, girl?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, like I said, I'm like
Hi, everybody.
kind of nervous about doing this discussion around sexuality and all of that, but
Totally.
starting to realize as an adult woman how important this subject really is. And it's not just
Right.
about having sex. Disclaimer, this conversation is not about having sex.
That part's good too, but
Yeah, that part's great.
there's
but
so much more.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we'll do a quick little warm-up just because I'm sure, I'm nervous every time I do this. That's just me.
Yeah.
So, Chelsea, what are you most passionate about?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. I'm most passionate. I think you kind of said it how you introduced me. It was really well said. I'm most passionate about being free and living my life in a way where I can flow where I feel called to flow, and I can create where I feel called to create, and I'm not limited by time or money. Hence why I'm now a business coach and I love entrepreneurship. That's really what I've always been most passionate about, and now I'm most passionate about helping other wild souls. I like to call wild feelers. That's my hashtag.
Yes.
That's really what I started out doing with my business, was wild feeler this, wild feeler that. But helping wild feelers create that too. Those like freedom junkies who are wildly creative and have so much to give to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel that that's enough to provide for yourself, and actually to provide for yourself in an abundant way. So that's what I'm most passionate about, and the whole soul seduction and shameless sexualities series is all an offshoot of that desire to help women create freedom. Freedom-seeking women create that freedom. They're all just tools to create that.
Cool. And I just want to say, I know that your Shameless Sexuality series is targeted for women.
Right.
But any men who are watching this, obviously I'm assuming only women can watch the same as
Yeah,
Shameless.
all of my work is for women. Sorry, men.
It's okay. But, I mean, if you're watching this today, like, be aware, like, maybe there's something in this conversation that Chelsea and I are having today that inspires you in some way, or maybe there's women in your life that you think can really benefit from this discussion and this work. So, men, you do have a role in this. We would love your support. And I'm not saying just Chelsea and I, women in general. Like, we need our men to back us up. Like, we back you guys up too, right?
Right.
I mean, most women would assume.
Right.
So, what do you believe is your purpose?
I feel like I said it in a way, but one phrase that really resonates with me that came to me in a meditation when I was sort of asking for a deeper understanding of my purpose was to create heaven on earth. That's really, doesn't that just give you chills?
Yes!
Every time I tell someone that, it gives them chills. That is exactly how I feel about it too. It was like, wow, it's so nice. You know, I've been doing this business for years before that hit me, and it was so nice to have it boiled down into a simple phrase like that. And to someone who relates, they get the meaning, but if like you're on a different wavelength, you might be like, what the hell does that mean? But to people like us, you're probably like, oh yeah, I get that. So hence the chills, but that's really it. Like everything that I teach is to help women in particular learn how to create heaven on earth for themselves. And speaking into like how sex is so much more than sex, when you start to realize that sex is actually a way to become a magnet for what you want to create, like if you can use your sexual desire or use your state of orgasm or your state of bliss to actually focus on what you want to create, you become a magnet for those things. And so the Shameless Sexuality series was super inspired by that concept of wanting to help women create heaven on earth. I think you can do that by being turned on and using that turned on energy to create from. I mean, what else would be heaven on earth other than being able to like make money through orgasms?
You're right.
Like that sounds like heaven on earth to me, right?
Yeah.
And so
I guess there's an industry for that. not the nicest one, but
right. Not like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you can use, and I think that that's what in Think and Grow Rich he talks about is like the desire we have for sex is so powerful. It's one of the most powerful desires we have. And sex or not, whatever you desire is going to make you a match for that thing, right? I hope that's making sense.
No, that totally makes sense. And you started off with saying, to create heaven on earth. I got chills because I totally understand what you're saying. And at the same time, I kind of have this weird idea, and it's a very spiritual thing, that I grew up Christian.
Same here, yeah.
Heaven or hell, hell's beneath us, heaven's above us, whatever. But to me, I feel like we can create our own heaven or hell here on earth. Exactly.
That is 100% how I feel too in my spirituality. And I think that our bodies hold both. Like we can create hell on earth for ourselves, or we can tap into that space of heaven.
Yeah.
And sex being one of the ways that you tap into that,
Oh, that's so cool. So you're a married woman.
Yes, I am.
And it's February. We're kind of diving into relationships and sexuality, which is why you're here.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like your best piece of relationship advice?
Ooh.
She has, if you follow her on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, she has the cutest love story with her husband.
I do.
I was just saying before, I'm like, I felt like I should have had like a box of chocolates and like a blanket and like snuggled up reading her story. It was just so sweet.
Thank you.
Crazy how like, and to me it's a testament as to how like language is just one form of connection, but really like the ultimate connection comes from an energy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You guys weren't even speaking the same language.
I know. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It should be a movie. Maybe I'll sell it someday.
It'll totally be a movie.
Yeah. I feel like my best relationship advice is to really learn how to listen. And more so than listen, but like really put yourself in the other person's shoes. I guess this advice is more for like moving through conflict, like being in a long-term relationship. There's so many things I could give you advice for, but in terms of like a long-term happy, sustainable relationship, like the ability to put your ego triggers aside for a minute to really try to understand where the other person's coming from, especially if you're like me and opposites attract. And like my husband and I are super opposite in our personalities. And so on top of like literally having a different language that we speak, we also work in very different ways. And so there are a lot of language barriers, if you know what I mean. But it's been so spiritually enriching to learn how to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, learning how to listen.
Deeply listen and put yourself in the other person's shoes. Not only does that make your partner feel amazing, but it pays off in the long run.
Yeah.
Because then, like, once you create that space for them, they're so much more open to hearing you, and it just diffuses the conflict. And it's just a skill that we had to learn the hard way, I think, our first year of marriage. And now that we have it, like, I attribute our success as a couple to that practice of both of us learning how to do that.
Yeah.
And be compassionate.
I think to add to that with listening is making sure you're actually hearing them correctly. Because how many times do, our partners or even just like friends, family say something to us and they mean something else from what you actually hear?
Absolutely.
And then
that's exactly what I mean.
Miscommunicated and
exactly.
So we're on the same track.
Because we literally, not only do men and women, I think, speak different languages often, but when you're dealing with someone who's so different than you, like it really stretches you in a good way if you're willing to do the work. And thankfully, he and I are both really willing to do that. And it just makes me love him more, how different he is from, I won't get into all the sappy things.
Yeah.
But it's a good skill to develop. Develop that skill, you guys. It'll go a long way.
Do you guys have like a little like thing, like you and your husband, like this is like dates that you go on or places that you go?
We try to go on at least one date a week. But anytime I try to get really structured about it, it kind of like takes the romantic part out of it. So I just sort of have let go of control, which is a big one. That's another tip.
Let go of control.
Yeah, for happiness, let go of control. We have our little rituals. Like for me, I I personally need connection time every day, even if it's 5 minutes. We have very different work schedules. He's like out the door at 5, 6 a.m. sometimes, and I'm like awake at 7, 8, 9 in the morning, you know. So like we have our daily rituals, like where we make time to connect and make eye contact and like be with each other, which I heavily inspired to toot my own horn. But then we'll also have like actual dates and stuff. But I try to let him plan that and head that one. Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
So tell us your story. Who is Chelsea Rose? Where does she come from? What is her journey that has led her to here?
Thank you for asking.
I don't know why I said that in third person. But
it helps. Who is Chelsea Rose? I was always, well, not always, but I've always been a sensitive child, or I was always a sensitive kid, and that led me into some trouble. In middle school, I was always like a rebel, sensitive, sort of outcast, and I got into a lot of trouble, and it ended up being such a blessing in disguise, and it led me down a path of spirituality, spiritual seeking, at the young age of 13, 14 years old. And so getting into trouble was actually such a blessing, and sort of led to my whole family shifting. And both of my parents started down their path of spiritual awakening, I guess you could say, around the time that I started finding that. And so I'd always been such like a existential child, like, what is the meaning of life, and like, why are we here, and where are we going? And I don't remember having those thoughts really until I had that breakthrough where I got into trouble, and my parents were like, you need attention, and I'm like, yeah, I do. And yeah, so that journey just led me to go deep into wanting to study psychology, and why we do what we do. And then in college, I started hearing this term life coach, and I started following all these life coaches, and I was like, ooh, maybe I should look into that. Like, that sounds like me. I would love to do that. And so I started life coaching right out of college, and I always just felt like such an old soul in a young person's body. And so that's really what led me to here. Long story short, that was the shortest I've ever told that story.
We got time. I mean, I have time.
But the whole piece, the reason I bring up the sensitivity piece is I didn't understand how sensitive I was until my young adult life, until college really. And then all of a sudden my life started making sense, and I started realizing that there were other people out there who felt sensitive and were really intuitive and felt like outcasts too. And that's really where the term wild feeler came from, and where all of my early business endeavors were around supporting that archetype. And it's kind of branched out into more entrepreneurs in general. But wild feelers are rebels, and we want to work for ourselves. So it just sort of effortlessly turned into business coaching from life coaching. But I've always just wanted to, support people who feel like me, who like ask the deeper questions and wonder about the big picture and how we're all connected, and just seeking that deeper meaning to life. That's always been me. And so I sort of help people do that or navigate that.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Or at least just like understand that we are all connected.
Yeah, and also understanding that like your sensitivity is a gift. Now I see sensitivity as kind of synonymous with being intuitive. And the number one thing I teach to my clients is to trust their intuition, because that's how I've created my entire business. That's how I found my husband. Like, that's how I manifested him. I just follow my intuition. Another way of saying that is like following what makes you feel alive, you know? And so that's really one of my biggest, I think you might ask about that later in the interview, but that's always like my biggest advice to my clients is like follow that, follow that intuitive space, because you have the answers. And so I've always been super curious about that. That's really what I love about my spiritual practice and my spiritual discovery, is that I really think we have all the answers we need. And it's about creating a space where you can access them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Like, it takes time to create that, because a lot of us are like just operating up here and not actually present. And so that's a journey. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
That's a journey in itself.
That's really a huge part of meditation, is literally creating that space in your thought patterns to invite, to receive those messages, or listen to your intuition.
Right, and we all receive in different ways, and it's like knowing yourself and knowing what clears that space for you too. Because some people like need to be moving in order. Like I'll be driving and I'll have the most crazy downloads that I don't necessarily have when I'm meditating, when I'm like sitting there doing my meditation, or in the shower too. I don't know if you relate to that.
Yeah, no, totally. When I'm driving, one of my friends, Casey, bought me a little phone holder in my car because we were talking one day, and I was like, I get these crazy thoughts while I'm driving and sitting in traffic. Right. And then I get home and I'm like, shit. Like, I don't remember what that was. Like, it was so deep at the moment, so I put my phone up there, and then if ever there's something really compelling, I just hit record on my phone.
Same here.
That's so cool.
I need to get one of those like waterproof notepads in the shower though. I haven't done that yet.
Oh, that's good.
I'll like rush out the shower and get my journal. Like, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? It's the same thing. Like, it'll start flowing. Anyways, I talk a lot about how to tap into that. I like to call that the miracle mind space. And that's really the space where you can birth heaven on earth. Like when you tap into that space and you can hear your intuition and you can feel that connection to God or the universe, whatever you believe in, like if you can get yourself in that space, that's what makes you a channel for literally channeling heaven onto earth. And sex is one way that we do that. Sex makes you a portal for that. Anyways, wrapping it back to that, tying it back to that.
So, go ahead and talk about shameless sexuality, and then kind of lead into your soul seduction course that's coming up.
So I started this shameless sexuality series. It's just a free kind of adventure that I invited my followers on, my female followers on, around clearing the shame around being a sexual being. It's just a part of life, and we have, we want to keep our kids safe, and we're raised to sort of cut that part of ourselves off, I think, with good intentions to keep us safe as children,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
But then there's this part of maturing that kind of, or there's this piece of education that I think is left out of like helping us become healthy adults, healthy in our sexuality. And the whole reason, like I'm not a relationship coach, although I love to talk about my relationship, the whole reason I'm interested in that is because when you can when you can feel at home in your sexuality, I think your sexuality is a way that connects you to all of life and connects you to God, for me. Like when I'm in a deep state of orgasm or a deep state of bliss in any way, there's no deeper feeling of home for me. Like it's a really spiritual experience for me. And I started realizing that the more I dove into that and allowed that to be more accessible to me, or like intentionally going into that space, I started making more money in my business. And I think that your sexuality is just a part of your essence as a human, and especially as a woman, it's like a piece of the puzzle. Like it needs to be there in order for you to be a healthy, happy human. And when we feel shame or suppression, it's like we've lost a part of ourselves, And anyways, it's a way of coming home to your essence and like I said, birthing heaven on earth. Really, like you attract what you feel. And if you're in a state of orgasm and you can think about what you want to create when you're in that state and you feel your desires coming to you, this is a practice that that was a part of the Shameless Sexuality series. I gave everyone a self-pleasure practice where you literally think about what you want to create as you orgasm or as you're approaching orgasm. Simply because the law of attraction says whatever you're feeling and being is what you're going to attract. So if you can feel as if you have the 10K in you, in that heightened state of pleasure, you're being the 10K receiver in that moment. So again, it is about sexuality. It is about flaunt it if you want to flaunt it, own it, but for the purposes of using it, which is your birthright to use. I really think it's this powerful way that we can manifest our desires as women. And so that was really the whole intention behind the Shameless Sexuality series. And when you can live in that state beyond the bedroom, beyond actual sex and sexuality, when you can bring that space of surrender and pleasure and bliss into your life and have that be your way of being, it's literally like letting life penetrate you. Like it really is like letting God/life penetrate you.
Take me
in the sense of letting yourself receive.
Right.
And that's the dance, is like, you can only create heaven on earth if you allow it. If you say, let God, universe, I'm willing to do this dance with you. I'm willing to let you give to me. But if you're walking around like trying to create without any availability of being able to receive, you're not going to get very far, and you're going to get burnt out, especially as women. And that's why sexuality is such like a fun thing to talk about, because how deeply you let yourself receive there translates to the rest of your life. So that's the big picture.
Yeah. I'm trying to put it into words as well. Like, obviously when you're having good sex, there's a part of you that's completely let go, or at least once you've gotten to that point of
in order to orgasm, you have to let go. It doesn't happen unless you do.
So how do we take that letting go into our lives? Because how often
and into our businesses,
man plans, God laughs, right? That's like something that came to me recently, and I'm like I'd heard the saying before, and like I heard it again with different ears. I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense. Like, to just completely surrender. Like,
right.
How many times like have people, I mean, you or me or anyone, like had like the best sex ever, and it's been just because you've just completely just said, here I am, take me. So essentially,
take me. It's totally it. Take me. Take my life. Take my business. Take everything.
Yeah.
It's faith.
So
it's faith too.
You're saying that at that, like when you're literally actually having sex and you're getting to that point of orgasm, you kind of manifest or meditate on what you really want to create in your life?
You absolutely can. It's a fun way, and I've used it before, and there was a time when I was using it frequently, and I had my biggest month I've ever had. And I was like, I'm holding out on my clients by not telling them this story. So I had to move through my sexual shame and my like fucked up, scary. Oh, I'm sorry for cussing on your show.
There's no FCC.
Okay. I cuss on my like social media all the time, but it's yours. So
it's okay.
There you go. Shameless. So I lost my train of thought a little bit.
You're talking about sharing this message with your clients.
Yes, it felt like I was holding out on them and not being honest, that this is like, because here I am being the spiritual business coach, and I've found like the Holy Grail, and I'm not sharing it with them. And that was like a few months ago, and I was like, okay, I really get to step into this. This is my next level of letting go of shame and letting go of whatever, that's when I cussed, whatever screwed up, effed up things I've learned about sexuality, so that I can use it for what I think it was. I mean, this is a scandalous thing to say, but what I think it was intended for. And we're taught that it's just there to create babies, and I come from I come from a Catholic background myself, and that goes fully against that, right? And again, there's like my inner rebel. I'm just like rebel against any kind of restriction in any way, not just for the sake of rebelling, but I think that it's something that we were blessed with, that we get to use if we want to. But it's not like every time I have sex, I'm thinking about my business. It's not that, right? It's really not that. But it's fun to play with, and that's why it was a exercise I gave everyone who joined the series.
Yeah. So for anyone who's tuning in or tuned in a little bit late, I said in the beginning of the broadcast that we're talking about sex, but we're not telling you to necessarily go, or Chelsea's not telling you to go and have sex. It's more about taking that feeling of letting go, like you would be during having sex, and using it in the rest of your life. So, you're not walking around like sleeping with random people.
No, it's not that.
That's not that. So if you have any questions
disclaimer.
or need like clarification with anything, then feel free to comment, and we'll get to you soon. Actually, I think I can see a few comments there. Oh, Thomas says, very nice, thanks, boo. And Donna Jackson, hey Donna.
Hi Donna.
She says, hey ladies.
Yay.
Awesome. And you get to see Donna next month.
Yeah, I'll be speaking, at her event,
So how does shameless sexuality tie into the soul seduction?
Thank you for keeping me on point. I was gonna go there. So again, like this, the sexuality piece, we get to remove that shame in order to use that energy of receiving and letting God penetrate you. Like that's really that's a fun part. That'll be included in the course, definitely, is like going deeper into, again, sex as a metaphor. Like how deeply, sex with yourself, by yourself, or with another person, how deeply you let yourself receive there will increase your ability to receive in other areas of your life if you let it. And so that's going to be a small part, like a fun exercise we do, or that I lead everyone through in the course. But more than that, like you were saying so beautifully, taking that energy of letting life give to you, taking that energy of being turned on, like seeking pleasure and seeking things that make you come to life, that is what gets you into the vortex, as Abraham Hicks says, right? I don't know if you listen to them at all, Abraham Hicks.
I haven't. I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard great things. I haven't made it that far yet.
So the vortex is like that place of infinite possibility and creation. And I like to call it the miracle mind, like the space where you can birth miracles. When you can follow what makes you feel alive, again, we create through what we be, right? And so letting yourself be and live in this space of ease. And it really is like a feminine art, and that's why it's for women. Because I think it's one of our superpowers if we can learn how to trust it. Because we've been taught that way of being is unproductive or frivolous or like distracted or something. When actually, if you can live in that space of flow, you'll get so much more done and you'll receive more in whatever you're creating, but specifically for business. And so it's a course for spiritual entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, to really learn this new way of being. It's like an energetic mastery, really, and sex being a part of it as a tool, as we've established. But it's so much more than that. It's really about letting life give to you and walking through life in that surrendered place like you were talking about, like we were talking about. And one thing I wanted to add about that idea of surrender is, for the longest time, I thought surrender was like, okay, I don't care what happens. And I am so strong-willed. I could not get my energy behind that. I'm like, but I really want this, this, and this to happen. Like, I'm a strong-willed person, as most entrepreneurs are, right? And I've realized since, and this work aligns up with it, that surrender is not that. I think surrender, or this whole soul seduction course, is around really stepping into what you want and declaring it. And that's something that I see a lot of women struggling with, around saying what you want. And that's a very assertive energy. But then being fully unattached to the how, that's the surrender. Because our job is not the how. Our job is to be in the energy of what we want and release the how and listen to where we're guided to go and follow that. It's really simple. We resist that though. We make it hard. It's a human tendency, right? And so this course is really a way to both step into your power and own what it is that you want in the bedroom too, as a part of it, but own whatever you want in your life, in your business, and be assertive, be in that queen energy, and then let life give to you, right? And assume that energy of, I already have it, I get to have it because I'm worthy. And again, working on receiving. I think so many women struggle with receiving and thinking that they have to push and force and look outside of themselves to create. That's totally not what our gift is, I think, as women.
Isn't that crazy how, I was taught, not necessarily no one actually told me oh, you need to, if someone gives you something, you have to receive it. But I was always, I guess in a way, taught, if someone gives you something, just take it.
Good.
And when I think about it now as an adult, it's, you're giving people the opportunity to give.
Right.
And then, obviously you deserve it in some way, but isn't it just so weird how we've told ourselves, especially, and I think
that it has to be hard work. That's really the big piece that I think this course is getting at. Totally guilt around receiving in general. Oh, I'm taking by receiving. No, you're gifting everyone by receiving, because then you show up more as your best self when you receive. Just like you said, I love that. That's how you were taught.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people taught, oh, no, I couldn't. I couldn't take that.
If I really didn't
or
want it, I would say
deflecting compliments.
No,
yeah.
Oh,
it's shitty.
One I have to work on is deflecting comments. Be like, oh, you look pretty today. And I'm like, thanks.
I know.
just say thank you, with pride and confidence.
Because we're good people. We're not all in our ego, and we don't want to sound like we're obsessed with ourselves, but there's a balance. I like to think of it as a queen energy.
Yeah.
A queen is not conceited. She just lets herself have what she wants, and she asks for help. But she also is super powerful.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that concept of we've been taught that to make money and to have what you want is really, really hard work. And the hard work part is optional. It takes effort, and it takes following your inspired actions, like the action steps that you're inspired to take, like that's your soul guiding you, I feel.
And it can take time.
And it takes time. Again, like the surrendered piece, we get to joyfully expect the outcome that we desire and not be attached, not be obsessed with the deadline. It takes effort, but it doesn't have to be hard work and sacrifice and like destroy your body. You really get to be in a space of pleasure, and you'll get to your goal so much faster when you're letting yourself have fun and you're letting yourself receive.
Doing the heart work.
Yeah, because again, you can only receive what it is you're being. And if you're being this hustle mode, maybe you'll get the money, but you'll feel like shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's not the point. We don't just want the money, we want freedom. And you're not going to feel free if you're all burnt out and stressed and like burning out your adrenals and whatever.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. It's not about the money at the end of the day. It's really about the passion.
And the freedom.
And the freedom, right, yeah. Not just the passion. It's about the freedom. I mean, for me, I don't want to make millions of dollars just so I can be like, oh yeah, I have millions of dollars. I want to make millions of dollars so I have, because let's face it, things cost money in our world. I don't want to be held back, and I want to be able to give back as well.
Absolutely, and that's why we get to let ourselves receive, is because the more you have, the more you have to give.
And I was going to say that I think the thing with women and receiving is that naturally we're givers.
Right.
And I don't know, I think just naturally it's difficult for us to receive because we're so busy like here.
Focusing
like,
on the needs of others and being aware of the needs of others, which is one of the most beautiful parts about who we are, you know, especially as sensitive women, which is my whole clientele and me included. But that's how we get to rewire those thought patterns and realize that it's not that you stop giving at all. It's that you get to give more of yourself when you let life penetrate you. Life give to you. Life give to you. That's what, you know, like when you let life give to you, all of a sudden you have infinite resources to do your great work with. You know, we're not just going to stop doing our work. We all want to serve, at least my people and your people. Anyone watching this has a desire to serve. And that's the whole, for me, that's the whole point, is to get women into a place where their businesses are flowing so beautifully, all their needs are met, whatever, so they can do their great work to the highest, you know, potential.
So what can your enrollment start for Soul Seduction starts tomorrow?
It starts tomorrow, yeah,
so
Soul Seduction.
What can women expect with the course?
So it's a 5-week course. It's a self-study course. But there's going to be a lot of community involved, like private Facebook group. You'll be able to connect with each other, even though it's kind of do it at home alone. I'm still going to have it be very intimate. And yeah, expect to be pushed outside your comfort zone. If you didn't already catch that vibe.
That's what all this work is about, is getting out of that comfort zone that we've created for ourselves.
And expect to make feeling good your number one priority. That's it. The better you feel, the more alive you feel, the more you'll be able to receive, the easier everything flows. That is the law of attraction. You know, that's I like to call it, also refer to it as like feminine magnetism, like stepping into your ability to be a magnet rather than like a hustler. Unless you want to be a hustler, then this isn't your course. You can go do that. Yeah. But for me, I'd like to be a magnet instead of going out and chasing, you know.
Ultimately using your inner seductress
to
not just seduce in the bedroom.
Seduce yourself so that you end up seducing your desires. Again, because the better you feel, the more turned on you feel, that's where the seducing yourself comes to play. The better you feel, like you become this oozing, beautiful goddess magnet for everything else that you desire. I mean, like, can you feel those moments when you've just felt so delicious and at home in your body, and then like people just open the door and someone like gives you a free latte and things just flow because it's the energy you're being. And that's really what I'm so inspired to master myself. I always teach what I'm learning. I always teach what I'm like in the process of mastering, but also really want to invite you guys to step into too, because life is just so much better that way. Yeah. And when you up level and you step into that deep self-respect and deep like self-love, really, you silently, again, that like feminine magnetism, you silently invite everyone around you to raise the bar and step up with you and become kings and queens around you. Again, it's not like an ego-y thing. It's really just like a grace.
And you have other courses as well. So,
so many things.
Before we
but that's the next thing.
How can people enroll into
Soul Seduction. So chelsearoses.com, go there. If you want to make sure to not miss out on the early bird special, go there and you can go to the contact me section, find my Facebook, my Instagram. You can email me and be like, I want to know when it opens, and I'll let you know as soon as it opens. But I'll be posting the link to the sales page like on all of my platforms. Chelsea Rose Madawi is my Facebook page, and Chelsea Roses is my Instagram handle. And the link will be everywhere. That's basically it.
You have a Chelsea Rose page on Facebook as well.
I have a business page too.
Okay.
I haven't been using it very much. I have tons of friends on my personal page, so it's just, I have like 3,000 people there, so it's just more fun. But I'll post it there too. And
you have other courses that you do, or are they available, or are they?
No, this is the only thing available.
Okay.
I do one thing at a time, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's probably a good thing. I'm the type of person, I'm like, so many ideas, let's all do them right now.
There will be, I will say, there's always something on the back burner like coming. The next big deal thing that I'm doing that I just decided this morning is, because what's gonna happen with Soul Seduction is there's gonna be a VIP option to work with me privately.
Okay.
I think it's just gonna be like one private session, one real deep dive session. I haven't been doing private coaching for months now, so it's very special that I'm offering that.
Okay.
It'll be obviously at a higher rate, but like a steal for what I normally charge for private. And then I'm gonna be launching my 9-month private mentorship in March/April. I'll be taking a handful of women to do all the work that I do, but one-on-one with me, and have access to all of my courses that I have. So that's coming. I'm not like, you guys are the first to hear about it.
You just decided that this morning.
It's been officially this morning.
Yeah.
It's been like brewing for months, but yeah.
I just decided this morning that I was going to do the book club. And all these
I love that.
I'm like, let's see how it goes.
We're flowing.
So the best way for people to contact you is chelsearoses.com.
Yes.
CHELSEAROSES.com.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here today. I loved the conversation.
Me too. Thanks for having me.